what Marcus Aurelius said about failure. You failed today. Maybe not catastrophically. Maybe no one even noticed. But you know. You said the wrong thing. You didn't finish what you started. You let someone down. Or worse, you let yourself down. And now it's quiet, and your mind won't stop. It replays the moment. It edits the scene. It whispers the same question over and over. Why can't I just get it right? We live in a world that has one answer to failure. Try harder, push further, bounce back faster. And so you do. You grind, you perform, you pretend it didn't hurt. But it did. Because failure doesn't just sting the body, it reaches something deeper. It touches your sense of who you are, your worthiness, your potential, your story. What if there was another way to hold it? Not toxic positivity, not empty reassurance. Something older, something harder, something true. 2,000 years ago, a man sat in a military tent at the edge of a crumbling empire. Outside, his generals argued. His army struggled. Disease moved through his soldiers like fog. He picked up a pen, and he wrote to himself, not about his enemies, not about his victories, about his failures. His name was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man alive, and by almost every historical measure, one of the greatest leaders who ever lived. And yet, his private journal reads like the confession of a man at war with himself. He wrote about his anger, his laziness, his vanity, his repeated failure to live up to his own philosophy. He never meant for anyone to read these words. That is precisely what makes them so extraordinary. What we call the Meditations is not a finished work. It is a living record of a man failing, reflecting, and trying again, day after day, year after year, across 2 decades. Today we go inside those pages. We extract 7 principles about failure, principles that no motivational poster will ever tell you, principles that could change everything. Picture this. You've just walked out of a meeting. You said something you shouldn't have, or you stayed silent when you should have spoken. And now, hours later, you're still in that room, mentally, emotionally, replaying it, judging it, hating yourself for it. Marcus Aurelius knew this feeling intimately, and he wrote something that should stop you cold. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? He wasn't just talking about anger at others. He was talking about the anger we turn inward, the self-recrimination, the shame spiral, the private prosecution we run against ourselves after every mistake. Shame doesn't teach you, it paralyzes you. There is a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt says I did something bad. Shame says I am bad. One is a signal, the other is a sentence. Marcus understood this. He wrote reminders to himself, not punishments. He would note where he fell short, name the failure clearly, and then he would move forward. He didn't wallow. He didn't perform self-flagellation. He treated each failure as data, information about where his character still needed work. Ask yourself tonight, are you sitting with your failures honestly, or are you drowning in shame? One leads somewhere, the other just hurts. In 170 AD, Rome was being hammered. The Antonine Plague had killed millions. The northern borders were crumbling. His co-emperor had died. By any measure, Marcus was failing, not from lack of effort, from circumstances that overwhelmed even his greatness. And into this crucible, he wrote one of the most remarkable ideas in human history. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Read that slowly. Not, the obstacle is temporary. Not, the obstacle will pass. The obstacle becomes the way. Most of us believe that success happens despite failure. Marcus believed success happens through failure. Every obstacle contains instructions. Every setback is a map. Every failure reveals the exact terrain you need to learn to navigate. Think about the last time something went wrong for you. A relationship that broke, a business that failed, a dream that didn't materialize. Now ask, what did that failure force you to develop? Patience you didn't know you needed. Clarity about what actually mattered. Resilience you couldn't have built any other way. Marcus didn't become a great philosopher in comfort. He became one in the middle of catastrophic, grinding failure. On cold nights, in failing campaigns, under impossible pressure. The obstacle was the material he used to build his character. And it is the only material any of us ever truly have. Here is the hardest thing to say, and the most important. You are not going to stop failing. Not when you're smarter, not when you're stronger, not when you've read enough books or meditated enough mornings. Marcus Aurelius meditated every day, studied philosophy for decades, ruled with extraordinary discipline, and still, he wrote reminders to himself about the same failures year after year. He wrote, "Begin the morning by saying to thyself, I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, unsocial." He wrote this not once, he wrote variations of it repeatedly, because he kept needing the reminder. The Stoics had a concept called progress, not perfection. The idea wasn't to arrive at wisdom, it was to keep walking toward it. Marcus never claimed to be a sage. He called himself a student, a flawed, struggling, repeatedly failing student. This matters more than you might think, because so much of the suffering around failure comes from a false belief that at some point you should stop failing, that the failures mean something is fundamentally wrong with you, that other people have figured it out, that you are uniquely, permanently broken. Marcus Aurelius, the greatest emperor Rome ever produced, never figured it out. He just kept trying to, and there is something breathtakingly liberating in that. You don't need to arrive, you need to keep walking. That's the whole philosophy, that's the whole point. Now imagine you failed publicly, not privately, in a journal, publicly. Everyone saw, everyone has an opinion. Marcus understood this trap perfectly. He ruled an empire of millions, every decision judged by historians, senators, generals, citizens, and he wrote something that cuts right through the noise. "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. You love yourself, but you trust yourself least. You hand the verdict on your failures to people who don't know your full story, who don't carry your full weight, who are managing their own failures while judging yours. When you fail and immediately look outward, when you measure the damage by who saw, you have handed your compass to someone who doesn't know your destination." Marcus had critics, vicious ones, Senate rivals who called him weak, military men who thought philosophy made him soft. He noted their criticism, he considered it, and then he returned to his own judgment, not arrogantly, deliberately, because the only evaluation of your failure that has power to change you is yours. Everyone else is just noise, loud, painful, persistent noise. Confine yourself to the present. 3 words, 3 of the most difficult words ever written, because failure lives in the past and the future simultaneously. The past, that thing I did wrong. The future, what this means for who I'll become. And neither of those places is real right now. The Stoics practice something called the returning, not a dramatic awakening, not a sudden transformation, a simple, humble act of returning to the present moment. Marcus wrote it this way: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wrote that line not as a declaration, he wrote it as a reminder to himself, because he kept forgetting. This is perhaps the most human thing in all of the meditations. The greatest Stoic philosopher kept forgetting Stoic philosophy, and so he wrote it down again, and again, and again. This is what real practice looks like, not achieving mastery and staying there, losing the thread and returning, losing the thread and returning. Growth doesn't move in a straight line. It spirals. You return to the same challenges again and again, but each time you are slightly different, slightly more capable, slightly more clear. Every return after failure is not a setback, it is the practice itself. Marcus Aurelius was chronically ill. Most people don't know this. Throughout his reign, he suffered from a persistent stomach illness. He often began his days in pain. He wrote about the temptation to stay in bed, to delay, to let the body's suffering become an excuse for the mind's surrender. And he wrote himself back into the world. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, "I have to go to work," as a human being, not as an emperor, not as a philosopher, as a human being. This distinction is everything, because when we fail physically, when our bodies betray us, when illness or exhaustion make us less than we want to be, we often experience it as a character failure. I should be stronger. I should push through. Why am I so weak? Marcus separated these things with surgical precision. The body has limits. Those limits are not failures. They are simply the terms of being human. What matters, the only thing that truly matters, is what the character does within those limits. Do you show up imperfectly? Then show up imperfectly. Virtue isn't a result. It's a direction, and direction doesn't require perfect conditions. We have been asking the wrong question. For most of our lives we have asked, How do I avoid failure? Marcus Aurelius never asked that question. He asked a different one entirely. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. He wasn't interested in theorizing about failure. He was interested in what you do next. The Stoics believed failure has a function, not a punishment, not a sign of cosmic disfavor, a function. Failure strips away what isn't real. It dismantles the identity built on performance and appearance. It burns away the false versions of yourself, and what remains after the burning is closer to the truth of who you are. Marcus lost military campaigns. He lost children. Several died young. He lost co-rulers, advisors, friends. He watched his legacy being shaped by forces outside his control. And through all of it, he wrote, not to make sense of the universe, but to maintain his own character within it, because that and only that was within his control. Failure is not the opposite of a meaningful life. Failure is the texture of a meaningful life. The question was never, will I fail? The question was always, who will I be when I do? Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD on a military campaign, still trying, still writing. He left behind no monument, no triumphant autobiography, only a private journal full of honest failure and honest effort. And 2,000 years later, we are still reading it, because it tells the truth that power and pride always try to hide, that being human means failing, repeatedly, painfully, publicly and privately, and that wisdom is not the absence of failure. Wisdom is the practice of returning, honestly, humbly, with clear eyes, to try again. 7 principles drawn from a man who lived them imperfectly. Shame paralyzes, honest reflection moves. The obstacle is the material, not the enemy. You were never meant to stop failing, only to keep progressing. The crowd's verdict on your failure is noise. Return to the present, again and again and again. The body has limits. The character chooses its direction. Failure is not the opposite of meaning. It is the texture of it. Simple, ancient, timeless. Tonight, when the mind starts its replay, when the shame starts its quiet prosecution, remember the emperor in his tent, picking up the pen, writing honestly, and beginning again. If something in this video landed for you, if one line cracked something open, consider subscribing. This channel is not motivational fluff. It is ancient wisdom, carefully extracted, real philosophical tools for the real weight of being alive. New videos every week on the thinkers who changed how we understand ourselves. Thank you, genuinely, for staying until the end, for giving this your time and your attention. Keep going.